always with you.
I want to line the pieces up. Yours and mine.
Welcome everyone to the Come and Go podcast with the host with the most. I'm Radaya and I'm joined with my second host, Flatline.
What up?
And today we'll be discussing
The Master of Masters.
and who the cunt is. So, we have many options to choose from, and we've done a lot of research into it, unlike other YouTubers who just sit there and spitball bullshit.
True.
We've actually done a proper, I want to say, analysis
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah,
So-
we're not judging it on something like, Demyx and the Master of Masters points in the same way. Ooh, theory confirmed. Like, no,
We've
that shit.
actually included story moments in the series and certain pivotal moments that we've noticed, and also other people have noticed as well. So we're just gonna jump straight into it, balls deep. The first one being Riku. Do you want to take away Flatland?
Yeah, sort of. This is obviously one of the theories that have been spitballed around a lot. I'd say maybe third most popular, and that tends to stem a lot from what I call the Keyblade Eye theory, which dates back to the no-name Keyblade with the Master of Masters eye in. It's a real simple concept of basically looking at all of the consecutive Keyblades after the no-name that contains the identical eye, and of course Riku not only having one but actually two Keyblades that contains the eye, which tends to lean towards him having obviously some kind of connection. The argument is that it relates to Ansem in some way, obviously via possession. But if you really wanna dive into it, so there are some madmen out there that obviously regarding time travel, because the Kingdom Hearts lore is fucked. Anything is possible. So that's one of the few things that sort of lends itself to Riku being the Master of Masters, of why does he have multiple Keyblades with his eye. Obviously, there's quite a few people that the likes of Terra has a Keyblade, and also Sora and Riku actually share a Keyblade with an eye in. So it seems coincidental that Riku seems to have this repeated connection with this eye. Also, the sort of going to the Ansem comment, that obviously allows him to control light and dark, which I believe you mentioned.
Yeah. So I had this theory that because we learned that obviously in Kingdom Hearts 1, Riku succumbs to the darkness. And through the series, you start to see him be able to control certain elements of darkness, especially the thing that Ansem normally had, whatever it's called, the thing that turned out to be Terra in Kingdom Hearts 3, the giant dark shadow, whatever it is.
That shit was mad.
So, yeah, and also at the same time, he ended up being Keyblade Master of Light as well, giving him credence to be able to control certain elements of light. And from what we know about the Master of Masters, he is also able to do both, where he can use darkness and he can use light, as we learn in the movie. I think it's called Back Cover. We learn in the movie that he can do both as well. So I find it very interesting that the two correlate quite directly as well.
And it's the limited amount of people that can actually do that. It's one thing saying, like one character can do this and the Master of Masters can do this, but it's whether there's such a limited collection of people who can do this that obviously there was always the idea that obviously when you're playing Kingdom Hearts 1 for the first time, you always have the idea of like, well, Sora is light and Riku is darkness, and that's always insinuated sort of goodness, good and bad, but obviously Riku kind of fluctuating that idea of him having good intentions while going about it kind of a weird way, similar to Xehanort, which is why his end was so interesting that people weren't sure if they should kind of like him or not. But yes, the fact that there are very, very few people who can actually do that sort of cements that theory a little bit more. A theory that has been sort of thrown around is that not just Riku is the Master of Masters, but actually Riku's Heartless is the Master of Masters, which is a bit spicy, which insinuates that obviously if Riku's Heartless is the Master of Masters, then Riku's Nobody must be somewhere, which is an entirely different story. But that's similar with the idea of obviously the fact that we know of how Heartless and Nobodies are created, and with how, again, messed up the lore is with time travel and possession and whatnot. It's definitely possible. I don't see too much reality behind that.
Yeah.
I think if Riku's going to have any connection with the Master of Masters, it's going to be either some kind of weird ancestry shit, or it's going to be him himself, that he'll pull a kind of young Xehanort idea when young Xehanort travelled back in time to talk to young Xehanort, to basically get his plan together. So I think it could be similar to Riku's story, which could also explain why he can have so much information and why he's so sort of far ahead with Sora, considering they're like twice as old as they were in Kingdom Hearts 1, and Sora still isn't a Master of Masters, yet Riku's tests seem to be relatively easy, while Sora had to learn the freaking power of waking, even though they cheated in his Mark of Mastery. Do you want to cover the next one?
Well, another one was there was a theory that I had, which was the Master of Masters actually splitting himself into two, which was one being Riku being the Nobody, and what's his name, Yozora being the Heartless, and how we see in the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 3, where Riku's in the world of the Master of Masters, was it? Or was it
Yozora as well.
And
Sora's with the
Yozora.
Master of Masters.
Yeah, so Riku's in the world of the Yozora, and Sora's in the world of the Master of Masters. So I have the theory of maybe because Yozora, because Yozora looks so much like Riku in a lot of ways, I have the theory of maybe they're somehow connected, they're somehow related. And a part of me thought, what if the Master of Masters split himself up into two beings? And we know they can do that. Xehanort's done that.
Yeah.
So what if Riku was the Master of Masters Nobody and Yozora was in Heartless, and they finally come together to make a whole?
And more specifically with that is that the reason why, or the ability to split oneself is less exclusive to Xehanort as people originally thought, but it's more of the ability of the Keyblade itself, which No Name has the ability to split souls rather than it being some magical power exclusive to Xehanort. And the only reason that Xehanort can do that is because he has No Name, which then insinuates that, as we've learned from Lushu's story, that he's been passing down this No Name for millennia. So he could have had an infinite amount of copies of himself, all basically duplicating themselves. So it's pretty safe to assume that the Master of Masters also did that merely as a safety procedure, possibly pulling a kind of Voldemort idea of splitting himself so that you have to kill every kind of form of him. And then, as we learned with the knowledge, as we know with the knowledge of what would happen if you kill a Nobody and a Heartless, all that simply does is return the Somebody, which we've basically done with 99% of the members of Organization 13. So now that we've returned basically so many people at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 because we basically go on a killing spree, there's a very high possibility that we've come across the Master of Masters, Nobody, and Heartless, and insinuating if Yuzora has some kind of connection to that, that may be what Kingdom Hearts 4 leads into, which is why Riku is spawned into Yuzora's world and why their clothes look so freaking similar. But again, with that kind of argument, you could also argue that there's a reason why Sora is obviously in Yuzora's world, is in the Master of Masters world, because they could be the same people, but that's a different theory.
Yeah, that's one we'll get up to. And lastly, this is a bit reaching it, and we did play Kingdom Hearts 1 yesterday, but it's the whole how we get to witness Kairi's grandma in Birth by Sleep, I believe, and how we hear about Sora's mom, but never again. Never ever again.
Sora's dinner will never be eaten!
But with Riku we don't, even though last night when we were playing Kingdom Hearts 1, he does say, our parents, we don't ever have to listen to our parents. But at the same time, we don't ever see if he had parents, if he's adopted, if he's anything like that. I mean, like I said, this part of the theory is really reaching it. But yeah, it's interesting. It is a little interesting tidbit. And knowing Nomura, that might.
Everything with Nomura means something.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. So you never know. I mean, it's interesting the way that's shown.
Yeah.
No, we don't really get physical forms of Sora's mom, but we still hear
it's
her
acknowledged
voice.
that she's canon. She's there, she exists as well, and obviously we see plenty of Kairi's grandmother.
Yeah.
But nothing of Riku. He just refers to it. There's no proof of actual existence, and especially if their lives have been so focused on the single Destiny Islands that we know, it's strange to imply that they would know for a fact. Because I feel like if Sora lives so close, then and Sora and Riku are such good friends, it's safe to assume that they most likely go around each other's houses. But they're sort of the way that they treat the island, I feel like they feel like the island is their home. So if they were ever going to hang out, it would be on the beach rather than at home, which then sort of also lends itself to being that maybe Sora and Kairi haven't ever actually met Riku's family and are just going along with the idea of, of course Riku has a family because he keeps telling us so. But we don't know.
Yeah. Alright, now here's one that kinda kept us up all night. The other night. So another theory we had was it being Sora. One reason I had, it's not really a big reason, it's something small, but it's noticeable. It's the fact that Sora has the same eye color as the eyes in the different Keyblades that the Master of Master put his eye into, which I find very interesting. Obviously the pupil of it looks very cat-like, but the shading behind the pupil is blue, and it's a very specific type of blue that only Sora had. You get what I mean? And in back cover, the Master of Master tells Luciu that he puts his own eye into the Keyblade so that he can see what's going on in the future.
Yeah, sort of again, it's very, very loose theory of this eye, but it's definitely something implying that it's actually the truth of the Master of Masters' physical eye, because it's stated that it is his, that he's sort of physically removed it from his face. But then, if that is the case, it's kind of strange. Like, why is it a cat eye, or why is the pupil inhuman? But purely going by the color alone, it's safe to say it's more than accurate. It's more than similar, and there's not too many other people, obviously going by the same idea as Riku, but his eye color isn't the same. It's purely just he has the Keyblade. And if Sora is so connected to all of this as we're led to believe, why has he never had anything like the eye in his Keyblades? Because of course he has the one that he shares with Riku that has the eye, but that's implying that that's purely from Riku's side. His sort of genes per se has influenced the Keyblade to form that way. But it's still strange to think that the Master of Masters actually has cat eyes for some reason. The other idea is just that I find completely insane that people are just not doing their research. Is sort of along the lines of the eye is very briefly people thinking it's Zigbar, which I think is just moronic and far too obvious, because the train of thought is basically, well, if the eye is in the Keyblade, then it's not in his face, and if it's not in his face, what kind of thing would you wear to cover your eye? An eye patch, which has already been disproven throughout the previous games that the reason why he wears an eye patch is because his face is scarred from a previous fight, not that he's ripped his eye out of his face. And if that was the case, unless he has two different coloured eyes, we know what Zigbar's other eye looks like, and it's not a cat. So I think that's completely insane. Similar to the whole idea of just basing a theory on the physicality of someone, considering that's also been disproved by Zigbar as well. Because people were arguing that Zigbar was the Master of Masters purely because their physicality is similar, which turns out bummer. He's kind of Lucio, someone else kind of important. So for someone to sort of latch onto such a basic theory again it's very strange to me, especially to go around and make YouTube videos about it. Not calling out any names, but through my research I've found a few. So a source that I'm basically going to read and analyze was a YouTube comment.
Yeah.
And it was basically arguing the Sora theory, and the fact of the Master of Masters apprentices, that he actually has 6 apprentices, and basically this guy has dived into why each apprentice could be the apprentice and how it supports Sora's theory. And we thought it was interesting, so we're sort of basically going to look through it, disprove what we can, relatively agree with what we think is plausible. Obviously not that it's confirmed, because nothing is confirmed with him besides that it's a dude, but
yeah,
we'll see what this guy has to say. So, very roughly, he says the apprentices are Ventus, Vanitas, Lee, Roxas, Shion, and Namine. Namine being best girl. What? Who do you believe is best girl?
Aqua.
So stereotypical. So he says, apprentice number 1, Ventus. Alright, so I know what you're all thinking. How did Sora give Ven his Keyblade? Well, I have a theory. Ven actually did not have a Keyblade until his union with Sora. Xehanort knew that Sora's heart, being the heart of the Master of Masters, would seek out Ventus's broken and incomplete heart and make it whole again, while also giving it the power to protect itself, bestowing upon a Keyblade. This is shown when Ven opens his eyes, looks to the stars, and summons a Keyblade, which Xehanort seems rather pleased about. In Ven receiving a Keyblade, this leads to Apprentice 2. So, Ven not having a Keyblade. Did we ever... Because Ven dates back to the whole Union Cross.
Yeah, Ven's really old.
Yeah, he's actually one of the replacement apprentice, one of the foretellers.
Yeah.
When all the foretellers dip, he's one of the new ones. So I'm trying to think back. Do we ever see, mainly in the movie or the mobile game that I've played, do we ever see him with a Keyblade?
I believe we do. Yeah, we do. Back then he had a very specific Keyblade. I can't remember the name right now, but he did have a Keyblade back then.
Is it the backwards one that he has nowadays?
No. It was completely different back then. It was completely... either way, he did have one.
And this was based before Sora?
Way before Sora.
So, I mean... If we're correct in that theory, Ven actually did not have a Keyblade. Obviously, if we're purely going by memory here, so
wouldn't you, to be part of the dandelion, wouldn't you need to have a
It would be
Keyblade.
implied.
There was one that didn't, but he kind of played it off.
Yeah, it would.
I think it was Brain.
That was Brain. So yeah, it would be implied that it's kind of important, considering the whole point of Dandelions is to like fight for to regain the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would seem strange if he didn't. But as I say, we're all going off the top of our head here. So if we do get anything reasonably wrong, please do correct us. We'll be more than happy to read the comments and spread our knowledge, because we definitely don't want to be spreading misinformation. But so this is just purely spitballing.
Yeah.
Want to cover the second apprentice?
Which one?
Vanitas.
Vanitas. Alright, so from what we've found is that Vanitas is the dark half of Ventus, which everyone that's played the game knows. He was resulted after Xehanort extracted the darkness from Ventus's heart. It's said that Ven used to train under Xehanort, but it's never specified that he was training with a tree blade. You don't really... That's true, that's never really mentioned.
Yeah, it's just assumed that obviously, because of Xehanort's goal that they need Vanitas and Ventus to clash, it's implied that he would be trained with a Keyblade, because that's how you create the X-Blade.
Yeah.
But to be real pedantic, I guess it's not specified.
And Ven and Vanitas' heart, as we all know, will always forever be connected, because Vanitas is literally extracted from Ventus's heart. It's quite dark for a kid game.
Yeah.
So when Ven received the Keyblade, the Master of Masters, aka maybe Sora, accidentally granted one to Vanitas as well. He is technically the sixth apprentice, the one who was not deemed worthy. Ooh, I like that statement.
Well, we know there's definitely one that's not deemed, so...
Yeah, I mean, Vanitas.
I guess it could be implied that it's Vanitas.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be fair, yeah, throughout the whole series, Vanitas is like an underdog favourite.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like he's...
I feel like if he had his own game, it would be able to stand on its own merit.
Yeah, I feel like he always comes across to me as like a pissed off middle child.
Yeah.
But it's like he was obviously he was Xehanort's side chick basically, but he was only created from Ventus because he was so interested in Ventus. So really he was kind of just used by Xehanort. So I feel like he's always been a bit salty about that. By the third apprentice is Lee,
aka Axel.
Yep. If we go by the theory that Sora was the one who granted Ventus his Keyblade, then Lee was also granted one by Sora. It is shown that Lee picks up Ven's wooden Keyblade, and Ven recites lines extremely similar to the official ceremony used to pass on the ability to wield a Keyblade. Sora's heart gave Ven his, and Ven gave one to Lee, which appears during DDD. Now, I don't know how much of a stretch that is, because that's also this entire thing is based on a theory, but that theory is based on another theory. So we're getting multiple theories, because obviously Roxas and Vanitas is based on Sora's theory.
Yeah.
But now Lee is based on Vanitas and Ventus's theory, who's based on Sora's theory. So only if Vanitas's and Ventus's and Sora's theory is accurate, then Lee's can be true. But I don't know. Again, anything is possible. So if a theory is based on a theory, then I feel like it shouldn't discredit any level of theories. But I don't know. I feel like that one's a bit of a stretch.
The fourth apprentice is Roxas, which is another fan favourite. It is heavily theorised that Ventus's heart was actually the reason Roxas had a Keyblade. If this is true, then again, Sora gave Ven a Keyblade. Ven gave one to Roxas. Sora also had a hand in this directly, because he was the very one that created Roxas after removing his heart from his body to save Kairi. I mean, this one's kind of reaching, ain't it? So and so gave it to so and so and so gave it to so-and-so.
I mean, I feel like that's what this guy's entire theory is about, of just Sora's basically going around you get a Keyblade. But I mean, this one is reaching, but it's also relatively based on some kind of fact of obviously Roxas having a connection with Ventus and therefore Sora because they both resided in Sora's heart.
Yeah.
But to say that Roxas can use a Keyblade because of
Ventus.
Ven, that's where it sort of loses me, because it's very heavily implied throughout the games that even by the organization himself that it's all about Sora.
Yeah.
That Roxas got his Keyblade because he is
Sora.
Sora's nobody.
Yeah.
He only looks like Ventus because Ventus's heart resided in there at the time. So we kind of latched onto basically Ventus's face, but Sora's being and abilities.
Yeah.
So I feel like it hasn't been disproven, but it's certainly been argued against, I would say.
Definitely.
But now we move on to a certainly underrated character that hasn't seen enough light in this game, both metaphorically and literally.
Yeah.
The fifth apprentice being Xion. And yes, that is the correct way of pronouncing it. I've heard people butcher that name. Exion. No. So Xion is given a Keyblade by stealing Sora's memories from Roxas. True. She returns to Sora's heart after her death and appears during DDD as a haunting display of those locked inside of Sora's heart who need his help. If she returns with the Keyblade this time, it can be said without a doubt that her direct interaction with Sora's heart the cause and not stealing memories. Interesting. So that's, again, kind of based in reality, because, yes, she was stealing Sora's memories, basically like she was programmed to do, because she was a creation. But I don't know how likely it is that she got a Keyblade from the memories. I think hers is a very similar story to Roxas, that basically just that she, due to the combination and the connection, she's kind of just born with the ability to summon one, and later on learns to use that ability rather than learns that she has a Keyblade and magically uses one. I think the ability to summon one is the important part, considering later on in Kingdom Hearts 3 we learn that Lee and Kairi eventually gets around to summoning their own Keyblade, which isn't bestowed upon them, they just learn to. So I think it's similar with Xion, that she's definitely got Sora's memories, which I guess could lead, because obviously if Sora has memories of how to use the Keyblade, it could be implied that she has the memories straight away. But using the Keyblade and actually fighting with it are two very different things, and for her to be such a natural at using it as she appears to be, I think that's more of a connection with just Sora's abilities rather than Sora's memories.
Yeah.
And her appearing in DDD is a haunting display of those locked inside of Sora's heart who need help. I mean, yeah, there's not much sort of argument, like that's not attempting to be a theory, that's just a valid point.
Yeah.
If she returns with the Keyblade this time, it can be said without a doubt that her interaction with Sora's heart was the cause and not stealing memory. Return of the Keyblade, I'm assuming, implying Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Which she does. She does return with one, which without a doubt apparently secures her interaction with Sora's heart, which is kind of what I was arguing.
Yeah. Again, another one that got a Keyblade without actually,
Yeah, just by proxy.
Yeah, by proxy.
Just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
It's a bit annoying. It's a bit like fucking anime and Dragon Ball, and everyone gets a transformation.
No one's training anymore. Everyone's just like, hey Sora, you know we're good friends, right?
Yeah,
give me a Keyblade.
But yeah. I remember in number 1 what a ceremonious moment it was when Sora got the Keyblade. Yeah.
I mean, even through Kingdom Hearts 2, obviously when Roxas summoned it the first time,
yeah.
Every time someone summons it for the first time, it's like, what is this? I've got this magical weapon that I can suddenly use. Or with Xion, as I mentioned, it's just very natural.
She kind of just flows in.
Yeah, when she summons it, it's like, I've got this now.
Well, it's kind of like Lee a bit as well, when Lee just puts his hand out and randomly gets the Keyblade.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess obviously Kingdom Hearts lore kind of deemed him worthy to summon it, because obviously the work that he'd put in, while Xion just sort of shat one out.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like she was technically like a day old and she used a Keyblade, which implies that there has to be some connection to Sora to naturally be able to use one. And as the guy says, not stealing the memories. So the last apprentice number 6, is the aforementioned Namine. The theory behind this is, although Namine has been shown to have a direct connection to Kairi as her nobody, the fact remains that she appears in Sora's heart during DDD. She is as much part of him as she is of Kairi. Many could argue that if she returns with the Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 3, it will be because of Aqua's interaction with Kairi and her connection to Namine. However, Namine had a lot more interaction with Sora and Roxas, even spreading her gentle touch over both his and Roxas' heart directly, in fixing their memory. With this in mind, the most interaction we have seen her have with Kairi is freeing her from the dungeon of the castle that never was. Namine never touched Kairi's heart in the same way she did both Sora and Roxas, so she probably didn't receive the Keyblade from Kairi at all. Now that I feel like is one of the biggest stretches of all of them.
No.
Because although Namine has been shown to have a direct connection to Kairi, which true, the fact remains that she could appear in Sora's heart during DDD. That's an interesting point, but I feel like that also lends itself to Namine not being normal in herself, that she is a witch, which then immediately allows her abilities to do things that other people can't. So to simply state that, if one person shows up in his stream, then they're connected, and she could be there for an entirely different reason.
Well, wasn't the reason that they use her is the fact that she can help reconnect the memory. Yeah. Because of her powers.
Yeah, she's working basically fixing everything that she's messed up.
Yeah.
Because of the organization's order. So yeah, it could be assumed that that's basically the reason why she's there, because she's sort of in there working her magic anyway. She's as much part of him as she is of Kairi. I would agree with that. Many could argue that if she returns with the Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 3, she does not. She barely returns in the last 5 seconds of the cutscene anyway, which hopefully we're going to be seeing plenty more of her. I think we will.
Well, probably. Well, let's just hope the new DLC has some substance.
Yeah, I think it will. The fact that it's based on is Remind, there's obviously it's going to be some kind of backtracking to help it really boost everything again, because obviously it's been a long time. So people, unless you've played Kingdom Hearts 1 recently or you have a really good memory, people are going to start forgetting things. So I feel like Remind is going to serve as a good reminder of getting people back into the swing. So I think she's definitely going to have a bigger part. Will she have a Keyblade?
Maybe.
Most likely. I think for the sake of the lore, she doesn't need one. We have our fighters, we have our lights. I think she's going to be a very important part, but Keybladeless. I think she's gonna be more of a psychological fighter rather than a physical one.
She might be handling, if she's a witch, and this is partly a Disney game.
Yeah.
She'll be handling the whole magic aspect of it.
Yeah, she'll be a spellcaster, per se. If we look at it as an RPG, she'll be more of a caster in the back lines. Which sounds fascinating. I really want to see that.
We need another spellcaster type character.
Definitely. I want to see Namine kick some ass. So that more or less sums it up for Namine's explanation. But yeah, I definitely do want to see her, get down and dirty a little bit. I think it'll be real entertaining to see her become a bit more of a rounded character. But I think we'll move on to the last 3 theories, 2 of characters and 1 of something a bit extra.
Well, I was going to say, there is currently a very big theory into the Master of Masters in the fan base. And unfortunately, it's that being of Demyx. And it's due to the fact because he moves similar to fucking the Master of Masters. What a stupid fucking theory. What a fucking stupid cunting theory. Kill yourself if you think that. But all jokes aside, the thing with Kingdom Hearts is a lot of the character models, a lot of the way they act, a lot of them act similarly, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But at one point before it was revealed Zigbar being Lushu, people thought Master of Masters was Zigbar, like you mentioned. And they even used the movement example as well, how the models move similarly. But really and truly, I just don't see it being, Demyx.
It's too
because
loose.
it's too loose, but it's also too predictable. I feel like with Nomura, prime fucking example is Zigbar being Lushu. How everyone was like, what? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And even with this, like, I feel like he wouldn't give it away that easily.
It seems strange that he'll come up with this insanely convoluted story of all of Kingdom Hearts and then just shit out Demyx.
Yeah,
And
that
like,
would be upsetting.
Yeah, I based our Master of Masters entirely on the physicality. We'd be like, no, that's not the Nomura we know.
That's really not. I mean, no one really saw fucking, like I said, like, no one really saw Lucio and Zigbar being one. I mean, even in the Remind trailer, when is it Locksword? The way Lucio says to Locksword, how the real question is, who are you? So who the fuck is Locksword now?
Yeah. Now a whole new fucking bowl of worms are here. That now we got to figure out who Luxord is. Like, oh, Nomura, please.
Exactly. So I feel like that whole Demyx thing, like, I do like Demyx as a character, but him being the Master of Masters would upset me a lot.
Oh, it would.
I'd much rather be happy with Kyrie being the Master of Masters.
Oh, can you imagine?
Something like that. But I'm sorry, but the Demyx thing, from the research that we've done, it seems that in the fan base, the whole theory is solely based on the physicality.
Yeah, that he moves in the same way. Like, come on now.
And that's not substance enough. Like, there isn't anything more. With the Sora and Riku example we've given, like, that has a whole, set example. That, and obviously nothing's set in stone, but it's something. So personally, on this podcast and between us two, we don't think it's Demyx.
Yeah, we're gonna let that theory go.
Yeah, fuck that theory.
I mean,
if we're wrong, we'll admit it.
We'll hold our hands up
openly
and say
admit
that we were wrong, but I just don't see it.
And neither do I. Knowing Nomura, it could even be fucking like we mentioned, Sora or Riku. Something in front of us.
Yeah,
but
we've
not
seen it the entire time, but we're blinded by it because it's so plain to see.
Exactly. A prime example with Zigbar again, how he was such a, I wouldn't say a main character in Birth by Sleep, but he was there a lot. He was there a lot. He was in your face a lot. But no one saw him.
Every main event that happened, he just happened to be connected.
Exactly.
But no one picked up on it.
Exactly. Even in number 2, Chain of Memories, like, he's been there a lot, and I just don't see Demyx, who's, I'm not saying he's not really there, because in Kingdom Hearts 3 he did have a bigger role to play.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't see it being that simple-minded.
Yeah.
But like we said, if it's him, then we'll drink a bowl of piss. No, we won't. But
we'll be mans about it.
Yeah, we'll admit our mistake. But anyways, I believe here Flatline has another theory.
Yeah, the sort of just as loosely, but I found something that I haven't found anyone talking about. And I was watching my favourite clips from back cover because I just enjoy the conversations with Master of Masters because he's such a funny dude. And there's a scene where he's basically talking to Lucio when he initially hands over No Name to him. And there's so many details in that. But one that no one seems to be picking up on is the Master of Masters' height. That he is freakishly tall. That I've done my research and basically, long story short, Lucio is taller than Zigbar. So if you take all the characters of Zigbar and put him in line, Zigbar is relatively short while Lucio is average height. But in the clip, Lucio is an entire head shorter than the Master of Masters.
Yeah.
Like, the Master of Masters is a unit. He is a big lad. So again, this is very basic, but very sort of interesting and very untouched upon. I literally basically just looked up all of the characters' heights And the tallest one I found that is also much taller, ironically, a head taller than second place, is Lexaeus. He is such a massive unit. And I think second place, the tallest, I believe, was someone like Xemnas. And Lexaeus is actually a full head taller than Xemnas, which I'm obviously not stating that Lucio is Xemnas and whatever, but it's interesting to me that Lexaeus is such a massive guy, so irregularly massive, just like the Master of Masters, very loose, but I thought I'd sort of mention that in, so in like 10 years time, if it turns out to be Lexaeus, I can say, I said that, I was first. But the basis is there, but I understand how loose and how much I'm stretching right now. But the final argument to sort of play a sense of devil's advocate is the idea of how it could be no one, that it's someone completely new, and that sort of stems from I was reading the secret reports from Kingdom Hearts 3. And the one that stuck out to me was the last one, which was Secret Report 13. And the last couple paragraphs went as so. The gazing eye, a keyblade forged from the eye of the Master of Masters. He passed it to me as I have to others, and through it he can see the future. All that will ever come to pass. Spanning the ages and body after body, life after life, my task has been to vigil over the eye as it passes from hand to hand. It has been a long time. Longer than I can express. This is obviously from the perspective of Lucio, that he was given the gazing eye and he's passed it down from body to body, life after life. The next paragraph, but now at last the Keyblade War has begun and Kingdom Hearts will open. This is obviously the second Keyblade War that he's referring to. A true and complete Kingdom Hearts born of the clash between darkness and light. I will soon be reunited with my old companions, and in that moment, my long vigil will reach its end. He will return, unlikely to be in our current timeline. Obviously, returning to his companions, he's referring to the foretellers and the secret ending.
Yeah.
But what really sticks out here is that he says he will return. The fact that he needs to return from somewhere will obviously imply that he's disappeared. And because this is based throughout the journals is based throughout the entirety of Kingdom Hearts 3, the fact that he hasn't returned yet and he's waiting for the second Keyblade War to start, which it just has in Kingdom Hearts 3, almost implies that through the entirety of Kingdom Hearts 3, the Master of Masters is never seen and never encountered. So that would then mean that before he's disappeared before Kingdom Hearts 3 time, and obviously in the secret ending with Yozora, he's obviously back and in the secret movie. But the fact that Lucio implicitly says that he will return, as I mentioned, implies that he's not actually in Kingdom Hearts 3. So any character that we see in Kingdom Hearts 3 could not be the Master of Masters, which I think is really interesting because it sort of throws out, like, everyone's finding all of this proof and evidence to support that it's a character, yet the entire time it could be someone that we've never ever met before.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's another Nomura thing as well, that the only character really and truly that we didn't see coming was the Master of Masters, him being different. Him actually being his own character. Yeah,
and the sort of last point that I want to make that I just thought was interesting was, again, in the secret ending when the Master of Masters appears, one thing I didn't acknowledge straight away is, obviously, he's standing on the edge of the building and he creates a heart shape over the moon. But there's something that he does immediately before that I didn't catch on, which he actually firstly makes a box shape over the moon. That he looks up to it, and with his finger and thumbs, he makes a box over the moon and then immediately makes a heart. Again, incredibly reaching, but to be really pedantic, because the Master is wearing an Organization 13 cloak, he's wearing gloves. What colour are the gloves? Black. Really reaching, obviously, but he does technically make a black box shape over the moon that he then makes into Kingdom Hearts, or at least into a heart. Most likely Kingdom Hearts, because the moon is the exact same texture as Kingdom Hearts. But I just thought that was interesting, that it's almost that supports the theory of his heart being in the box, but also the fact that will allow him, that because he has a heart in the box, and Lucio has carried this box through all of history, because we know that that a person can travel in time as long as there is
a part of them
there. Basically, what Lucio has allowed the Master of Masters to do is basically infinitely travel through time alongside the box, which then, because he's traveling through time and disappearing 24/7, that then supports the theory that it could be someone that we've never met before, because he's never needed to appear. He can basically stay on the edge of time for as long as he needs to, until he needs to appear.
Yeah. I mean, knowing the more, it probably is a whole new character, which would be nice. It would be nice.
I almost hope it is.
Yeah,
I think it'd be really
nice
interesting.
Have him be his own personality, his own thing. I mean, it's alright if they try and relate him back to Sora or Riku as an ancestry.
Yeah,
that's fine.
There's definitely a connection, obviously, but to basically just straight up say, it's Sora or someone like that, I think it's definitely going to be missing potential, because that's like, it's already limiting yourself on the story. It'll be mad trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But if he turns around and say it's completely new, then I think that's an infinitely bigger story than trying to explain how it's Sora or Riku. So I think that covers all of our theories for today. Of course, our research will continue. We're going to be covering a lot more, not just Kingdom Hearts. When it comes to Radaya and I, it will be majority Kingdom Hearts, because we can just dive into it a little bit more, but we will be covering anime, movies, TV, gaming, Kingdom Hearts, whatever really sort of interests us at the time. But make sure you do please check our channel out. Check out Wilby2506 and
Radaya Production,
which will of course be in the description below. You'll check out our sort of solo content, and of course gotta be some YouTube scrubs here, and like, comment, subscribe, and yada yada yada. But please do tune in next time. But until then, thanks for watching and have a great day.